Hi guys, James at RampantLionReviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to head up to Berlin once again. This is one of the beers that I brought down to Bamberg with me when I was passing through. So for this one we are going to do yet another beer from the Berg Brauerei, and it's another one of their Berliner Weisses. So yeah, should be really interesting. I really enjoyed the Johannisbeere one that I had in the last video, so I'm curious to see how this one turns out. So this beer yet again is called the Berg Fruchte Weisse. It is the Himbeere edition, which literally translates as raspberry. No doubts about this one, as there was a little bit with Johannisbeere on my part. But this is a Berliner Weisse, and it comes in at 4.0% ABV. So I'm very curious about this one. Again, as I told you in the last video, this was one, I bought it from the Berliner Beer Shop, which isn't too far away from Tiergarten, and the guy in there was telling me he got these beers very, very fresh. I literally bought them the day after he got them in, so I'm very, very curious to see how this one turns out as well. The Johannisbeere one was really good. You could taste how fresh the berries in that were because of how fresh the beer was. So yeah, very curious to see how this one turns out, and as always I hope you guys enjoy my take on this beer. So anyway, as is usual with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Berg Brauerei before. No doubt I will add some more in the near future, but this is the last one probably for a little bit actually, but I will try and get more at some point soon. There's all the usual social media. If you want to see more beer reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel of course has a geography based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlist of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the German beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, to tell you a little bit about the Berg Brauerei then. So the Berg Brauerei was founded back in 2015 by Uli Erxleben, Finn Hensel and Robin Weber, and these three apparently met through their careers in e-commerce, but they'd worked internationally and they were just huge beer enthusiasts, so they thought about either opening up a beer bar or actually brewing beer for themselves, and it was the latter that they eventually settled on. So they then hired their first brewmaster, who was Rich Hodges, who actually used to work for Crew Republic, who are one of the better known craft beer names in Germany these days, but he had trained both at Weihenstephan and the TU München in Freising, just to the kind of north of Berlin, of Munich, sorry, brain fart there, to the north of Munich, and also at the Domens Institute as well, which is yet another famous German brewing school. But Robin came up with the name Berliner Berg after speaking to his mum, and she reminded him that that a lot of these breweries were basically founded in the mountains. So the name of this brewery literally translates to the Berlin Mountain Brewery, but it's a little bit ironic, I guess, because from what I remember of Berlin, it is actually pretty flat. It's in one of the more flat areas of Germany actually, so in a way it is a little bit ironic. But the brewery itself is located in the Kopfstrasse near the Tempelhofer Feld in the Neukölln district of the city, and which is one of the southern parts if I'm remembering rightly, and they do have an on-site tap room there as well where you can go and try some of the different beers. But they now have Michaela Hengst as the managing director of the company, and they've hired a new brewmaster as well. Rich Hodges left because they wanted to do a little bit of gypsy brewing and things like this, and he was going to have to travel to all different places around Germany, and that wasn't really what he actually wanted to do. So they do brew part of their breweries in a variety of host breweries, their beers in host breweries as well. So in some ways they're part gypsy brewery, in some ways they do have their own beer as well, which is, it's kind of an unusual mix that I've never heard of a brewery do gypsy brewing when they actually do have their own brew facility as well. So yeah, interesting times from this one. It's probably a little bit to do with the capacity and things like that they have in their own little place, but hopefully I can get into Berliner Berg sometime and have a visit of them. That's something that I'm going to plan, of course, with Peter, the clueless drinker, because he loves the German beer, so that's something I will sort out with him at some point in the fairly near future. So yeah, that's all you really need to know about the Berg Brauerei just now. If you want to learn a little bit more, of course, you can check them out on Facebook, you can follow them on Instagram and all these kind of things, but let's get on to the actual tasting of this beer itself. So like I said to you at the start of the video, this one is a Berliner Weisse coming in at 4% ABV. And basically they've started up this series where they put seasonal fruit into Berliner Weisses, and this one has raspberries in it, which should be very, very nice. And this particular beer is actually brewed in their brewery in Neukölln. It's not like the Grünhopfen Weisse that I had, which was brewed in somewhere else. I think it was Baden-Württemberg actually, that beer was brewed in. But this one says best before the 10th of September 2019. So like I say, this beer is very, very fresh. So without further ado then, let's get out and we'll get on with the tasting. There's a quick look at the bottle cap for you. Okay, and the artwork again is very, very similar of Berliner Berg. The Berliner Berg Brewery beers all have this kind of similar roundel on it, and there you can see there is the little Himbeere sticker. So yeah, but yeah, let's get it out and we'll get on with the tasting then. Very curious about this one. This one does not want to open. This opener is a little bit of a strange one. It can be a little bit temperamental actually. I'll need to buy Daniel a new bottle opener. But yeah, let's get this guy out and into the glass. This one is a little bit darker than the other one. Yeah. It's interesting that, and it's definitely got a little bit more head on it as well. We need to just be a little bit careful on the last bit of the pour with this one. Yep, there we go. Yeah, so this one has poured a little bit darker than the other one. It's definitely, when I look through the camera control down here, it definitely is a little bit more pink. It's a lot more winey in colour, this one, than the other one, and you can really smell that lovely tart raspberry, of course. Back home in Scotland, our raspberries and strawberries are quite revered apparently, so I really do like some of these beers. I've had some beers from Tempest and things like that, and from my local breweries, Harveston and Williams Brothers, that have had raspberries in them as well. So it's something in beer that I really do like actually. But yeah, as you can see with this one, it's poured. I'm just looking at the camera. When the light comes through this beer, you can see it really is a very nice sort of dark. It's almost like a burgundy colour. It's almost the same colour as the Heart of Midlothian football strip actually, this beer. It's almost the same kind of colour as that, which is quite a thing. I'm not sure if it's is it a maroon that they play in? I can't remember all these different shades of sort of purpley reds and things like that. But yeah, you could see there was a solid finger or so of a head on this one that was kind of, it did have a little bit of a pink sort of tinge to it. It's almost like a little bit of a pinkish grey fawn kind of colour, the head on this one. But one or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass in this beer, and a few little ones just heading up towards the bottom of that head. But overall, you know, it does look very, very nice. So yeah, just take a little bit of time and have a little look at the beer. But it's not surprising, the appearance of this one, when you think about a Berliner Weisse. You get them in all different kind of colours and things like that. It's one of the few beers that has pretty much any colour you can think of, depending on what you add to it. But let's take a closer look at the aroma then and just see how we get on with this beer. So yeah, straight away with this one, first two things that come out as you'd expect, nice little bit of tart raspberry in there. There is a little bit more of a kind of, how do you say it, definitely a little bit more of a sweeter, wheaty thing there, but there's definitely a little bit more complexity to the beer than simply raspberry. It almost smells as if it's got a little bit of a candied, red fruity sort of thing. But I love raspberries. My mum always used to give me raspberry yogurts in my lunch boxes when I was a little kid and going to school. I always used to love that. Scottish raspberry yogurts. But yeah, raspberry straight away. It almost smells as if it has a little bit of strawberry in there too. But it's got definitely a kind of candied note, but it's the raspberries really that are jumping straight out of this one. It is pretty much straight up raspberry. Like these little subtle tones and things you get, it is just all about perception. It's not, probably there isn't a strawberry aroma coming out of this one, but it does smell a little bit like there is, if that makes any sense at all. But yeah, lovely little raspberry note to this beer. Underneath you can smell the kind of wheaty smoothness that you would expect. Yeah, lovely wheaty smoothness to this beer. A little bit of a biscuity quality to it as well, and you can smell that nice white bready note, and there's some grassiness from the noble hops. You can pick up a little bit of that earthy, grassy, slightly floral noble hop quality to this beer. But yeah, the nice sharpness from the raspberries. As your nose adjusts to this one, it's almost like the aroma becomes just a little bit more juicy, which is lovely actually. I like how that kind of goes together. So yeah, just take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of this one. There's nothing particularly surprising about it in terms of a Berliner Weisse. The raspberries in this one smell lovely. They almost rival the Scottish raspberries, but you know, being Scottish, I have to say not quite. But yeah, lovely, lovely aroma to this beer in all seriousness. But yeah, just take a little bit of time and enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it. It's always half the experience when it comes to whiskies and craft beers and sakes and all of these sort of things. So take a little bit of time and enjoy it, but let's have a taste of this beer now then. So this one is the Berliner Fruchte Weisse, the Himbeere edition, the raspberry edition, from the Berliner Berg Brauerei in the Neukölln district in Berlin here in Germany. So let's get stuck into this beer again. Slange, Skål, Prost. Yeah, I like that actually. I like this one. It's compared to the Johannisbeere. This, I guess, if you've got the choice of those two beers, because like I say, these ones were released pretty close together. But if you have the choice of those beers, then it really depends on how you prefer your fruit. I think this one is definitely a little bit more tart, if you like. It's definitely got a little bit more of a kind of sharpness to it. But the other one is a little bit more juicy. So if you like a more juicy Berliner Weisse, go for the Johannisbeere. If you like a little bit more of a sharper Berliner Weisse, go for the Himbeere version. Go for the raspberry one. But this is another really, really nice beer as well. But yeah, again, I'll say this one, when you take a slightly bigger sip of it, it definitely smooths out a little bit. Because when you come in initially with it, it is fairly sharp, and you get that nice sort of lemony, tart, citrusy sort of thing that you'll get from the Brettanomyces or the Lactobacillus. I don't know if it actually says which one of these that they're using in this one. It doesn't say whether it's Lactobacillus or Brettanomyces, because they do taste a little bit different. No, it just says, yeah, basically just says Sour Beer Klassiker, like a sour beer classic. So yeah, no, they don't say which type of yeast it is they've used in this one. But you know, this beer is, of course, this one, I guess technically it's not brewed in accordance with the Reinheitsgebot, because it does have the raspberries added to it. So yeah, technically it's not a Reinheitsgebot beer, but I guess other than that, it will actually be brewed according to that. But yeah, it is really nice, this one as well. Again, these guys, obviously it's cool to see one of these newer, kind of new generation Berlin breweries doing one of the traditional Berlin beer styles. As I said in the last video as well, the guy in the Berlin beer shop, he was telling me that this style was actually developed by accident. They weren't actively trying to make a sour beer, they just brewed a beer one time and it tasted like this. They saved the yeast, and then that, itself, it developed into a style. So it's kind of interesting that, but obviously in the new kind of craft beer terms, it's very, very popular. You've got Braerei up in Skåne in Sweden, where I live, that are brewing these sort of beers and doing a very, very good job with them. It's really funny, just how this kind of style is almost discovered by accident. I never knew that about it before. But yeah, with this one then, again, it's kind of what you would expect from the style. It's nothing surprising, but it's one of these beers that is very, very well done. So let's try and break it down a little bit. So you can feel a nice little bit of the pale malt, that just blankets the middle of your palate. And as you go further and further into the aftertaste, you start to get more and more of the sort of wheaty smoothness out of this one. That definitely comes out a little bit more the further into the aftertaste you go. In the centre of the palate, there's almost just a little bit of a slight biscuity flavour to this beer too, which is very, very nice. So yeah, nice little bit of a biscuity malt to this one. It has a little bit of it doesn't really have the sort of banana, clovey sort of things you'd expect. The wheat in this beer is very, very smooth. I would definitely say that about this. It has a lovely kind of sweet, almost very slightly sweet backbone to it, this beer. And again, it has the the German noble hop characteristics, a little bit of sweet earthiness in the back corners of the palate as you come further forward. That kind of fades away, it gets a little touch floral in the front corners of the tongue, then round the very front curve of the palate it's just a little bit lighter and grassy, and of course behind the front curve of the tongue, that's where you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters start to come out of the beer. It's definitely that sort of grassy fruity ester that's coming out of this one. And the thing is, when you add fruit to beer, the fruit always comes out on the front edges of the palate, so it's almost like the fruits suppress a little bit of the IBUs that the beer have, and the raspberry flavours, the juicy raspberries, are really kind of coming out all along the edge of the tongue there. And initially when you take them in, they do have a little bit of that sharpness, the tart sharpness from the Lactobacillus Brettanomyces, whatever it is, that comes in just behind the edge of the tongue, and as you go further into the flavour of this one, then you just get the raspberry flavours become more and more juicy as you go into the aftertaste with this beer, basically. But yeah, that's nice. As I say, I like how everything goes together in this beer. It really is just very nicely done, actually. It's interesting, this. It's very, very similar to what the guys at Braerei in Sweden are doing. Their malt base is a little bit more prominent, I think, in the Swedish one. So it's interesting just to see these little niches between different breweries. But again, very, very solid beer. As you go into the aftertaste, it's almost the raspberries just kind of sit there. It's the raspberries and the wheat. The wheat starts to come out a little bit more, and the raspberry sort of sits there as well. So it's a very easy drinking beer, this one. It is just very, very nice. And I would say it has a little touch of an almost candied red fruit note to it as well. Again, it reminds me of the little heart-shaped sweets that you get in Haribo Starmix. I say that in quite a lot of videos. I should be working for Haribo, but that kind of flavour does really come out in this beer. In terms of the mouthfeel, on the bottom end of mid-bodied, again, carbonation does have a little bit of a prickle to it, which is what you'd expect from the Berliner Weisse. There's a nice, overall the mouthfeel, it's a mix between oily and wet, I would say. Smooth hoppiness to this one, not really any IBUs. Nice bit of sharp tart character, which is what you'd expect of the style. Juicy fruits, and yeah, juicy fruits. And I would say overall, just a really solid Berliner Weisse. You know, if you like the style, you will enjoy this one. Like I said, if you like them a little bit sharper and tartar, go for the raspberry one. If you like them a little bit more juicy, then go for the Johannisbeer version. But both of the beers from this one, from this brewery, will be very good. And I'm sure that you know, whichever ones they do, just try one of the Berliner Weisses and see how you get on, and if you like the style, I'm pretty sure you will enjoy it. And as I say, it's cool to see one of these new generation Berlin breweries doing a sort of classic or a famous Berlin beer style. So yeah, let's leave it at that for this one again then. Yeah, so this one is the Berliner Fruchte Weisse, the Himbeere edition from Berliner Berg Brauerei in Neukölln in Berlin. A really, really nice Berliner Weisse. If you like the style, you will like this beer. So once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this one in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from the Berliner Berg Brauerei as well, and I'm sure I'll return to these guys in the fairly near future. But thank you again for watching. Make sure you check out my social media, and I will catch you guys very, very soon. The Berliner Fruchte Weisse from Berliner Berg Brauerei, the Himbeere edition from Neukölln in Berlin. Until the next time, it's Landry just now, and I'll catch you guys very soon. Skål, Prost.